to Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai. It is now time for our Zerg versus Zerg.
Yes, it is. Rogue versus Dark is going to be our ZvZ in the round of 8, and, well, what a matchup. Rogue has kind of been on the up in the latter half of 2017 so far, and Dark has always been a monster, although it didn't look too hot on day one, so it'll be interesting to see if he can show up today.
I love this matchup. I think it's going to be awesome. Rogue is obviously the Zerg on fire lately, at least when it comes to online results. Dark's had an okay year. I absolutely don't want to say he's had a terrible year, but we kind of expect more of him. After making it to the grand finals of the global players in 2016, and then I've been impressed many, many times in my life, but I don't think I've ever been more impressed than watching his first-person view of the game on King Sejong.
Yeah.
I was dizzy afterwards. I was staring at his screen because everybody was in our ear. It's about to end. It's about to end. So I was just watching, and I'm watching from an awkward angle of the screen. I was like, oh my God, I have never, and I definitely mean never, seen somebody play Zerg like that. I love Dark. I think he's so cool to watch, but this is going to be one out of a series for him because Rogue has been looking on point so far.
Well, I mean, I think we're all in agreement that Dark can do things that other Zergs just simply cannot do, and he's amazing in those ways. But let's look at where Rogue's at right now, right? He's been #1 on the ladder for months in Korea. He's been playing very well. In fact, the round of 8 last season against Su, he had Su dead. We all remember this like one Ling on hold position, saving the game, and a queen popping out for Su. Like the craziest stuff you've ever seen. Su going on, of course, to get 2nd place in the whole tournament, but Rogue is there, man. As far as Zerg's skill goes right now, he's there.
Yeah, he really is, and he showed that in the group stages as well. He did not stop against anyone he could end up against. He took down he took down Gumiho initially, of course, and then he went up against Stats, and he took him down. And he was doing this in macro games, like long 30-minute plus games. He was doing it in 5-minute proxy hat-trick games as well. It was everything.
You know, what's interesting, Dan, is that I was looking at the results between these two. Dark has a winning record, but that's not that relevant if the games are from years ago, and they actually are. I think it's bizarre that since the beginning, basically January of 2016, these two have only played twice against each other, and they were best of once. So in 2 years, the best Zerg, well, one of the best Zergs in the world, going up against one of the other best Zergs in the world. They've got like one best of one in 2016, 0 games in 2017. How does that even happen?
Yeah.
These two are supposed to play each other over and over and over again.
This is really actually bizarre now that you bring this up, that they never get to play against each other, because I've seen plenty of both of their Zerg versus Zergs, and I mean, truthfully, there's like 5 really good Zergs to speak of in Korea, right? So that's kind of bizarre that they've dodged each other, but this is a match that truly means something. Dark is not locked for BlizzCon, and Rogue is far behind. Unless he's planning on winning this GSL, he needs to finish well here.
I'm sure he's planning on it. But will he do it? That is the big question. No, I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be a really fun series. I find it so hard to predict. Also because they almost never play against each other. And we know how these ZvZ series go, right? Every now and then, the biggest macro player there is suddenly opens up with a couple of aggressive pulls. It just makes it an absolute guessing game for us, and I think even more for these two players on stage.
Yeah, ZvZ is a really dangerous matchup, and it can go in a split second to any of the players, so it's really tough to call. And again, so much on the line for both, you know? Both want to win this championship, but so much behind that as well. BlizzCon in sights for Dark. And for Rogue, it's a long sight, but
yeah,
you've got to start performance right now.
Well, let's go with some predictions here for you guys, because I think that this is probably the hardest to call in this round, right? I mean, I guess there's like a few hard to call matches here. This is a good tournament when I'm like, I'm not really sure who's beating who, but Wardy, who takes us down? What's the score, Dark versus Rogue?
I think Rogue's going to take it because he's been completely on fire lately. Dark wasn't looking great. 3-1.
I believe Dark bounces back of that relatively weak day one he had here. He also said he felt a little bit off. I'm sure he's ready for this, and I still believe. I picked Dark at the beginning of the tournament to go very far. Semi-finals is almost there, but I think when you say very far, you're talking finals, right, Tosis? We all know that he can do it. I think he's going to take it 3-2, but it's going to be a very hard-fought series for him.
All right, it's Rogue 3-1, guys. That's my opinion. This guy is on fire. He's ready to start winning tournaments, and maybe this is his first one. But it is time now to start our ZvZ with Dark against Rogue.
Rogue is currently ranked 1 on the Korean ladder, and usually when you're doing well on the Korean ladder, which is the toughest out there, it's going to translate into some results in tournaments, and he's really starting to come into form lately.
Rogue's a really cool Zerg player. He's very creative. I think he's always got his own kind of flavor of how to play StarCraft and how to play Zerg. So for Rogue, it's just very cool because he always finds a way to mix in a different composition. Today, he was going triple upgrades against Mech. Really cool stuff like that, which sets him apart.
It's going down. 22 have already fallen. The remaining numbers are going to get thinned, and that is Rogue advancing on to the round of 8.
Dark is the best defensive player when it comes to StarCraft. Pretty much no matter how many angles the opponents are attacking him from, one of the most impressive things is how he just hangs on and finds a way to stay in the game and then eventually find an advantage. Dark's one of the most confident players that plays StarCraft II. He always goes into a tournament very confident, thinking that he is a lot better than the opponents. A lot of other players are very kind of demure. They play down their abilities. He's always very confident and open about the fact that he expects to win pretty much every game he plays.
In that game against Bunny on Odyssey, it was one of the most stunning games of the year. Dark is down like 70 supply for most of it. And that is a position for Zerg that is nearly impossible, but Dark somehow, some way just holds on and ends up winning in the end. He's the most tenacious Zerg that we've ever had in this game.
Time to keep the cauldron turning here as we get into another quarterfinal for the Intel Extreme Masters. Shanghai. Dark is going to be going up against Rogue. I am joined by Pig here, rowing for an awesome ZvZ.
Indeed, two of the absolute best Zerg players in the world here playing for a spot in the semifinals. It's going to be a good one.
All right, let's get into it. Up to the top left-hand corner in the blue, it is Dark, our previous BlizzCon finalist, and looking for a good result here in Shanghai. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, after a great group stage for him, representing Jin Air Green Wings, it is Rogue.
Very good form so far this tournament from Rogue. Surprised a lot of us with that performance on day one. And going to be opening up very aggressively. No time to talk too much about the players' histories and past, because right now we have got a very economic opening from Dark up against a very fast rush here from Rogue. Fast gas and pool. We're going to have to keep an eye on whether or not he pulls out of that gas. If he keeps mining after 100, that means he is going to be building a Baneling Nest and going pretty much completely all in, trying to kill Dark.
There's the pool as well, going down on the other side for Dark, trying to get himself in a certain sense of normality here in just a few moments, as Rogue is going to be making a few links, eventually putting on some pressure here.
Yeah, still two guys on gas, so it looks like Rogue is indeed going to be going for the fast Queen, the Baneling Nest, banking up and really looking to hit one big sudden surprise attack. So of course Rogue's job here is to hide this until the last possible moment. You can see Dark's heading across the map with two separate overlords. He's spread them out a bit, so he's trying to spot those Zerglings on their way across the map. Now Rogue, he's going to have to choose his path very wisely.
Yeah.
This is when the Zerglings leave the base. I think he's going to go right around the north. If he goes to the bottom, there is a chance Dark's Overlord might spot that.
Yeah, and notice the buildings in Dark's main base. You can see the spawning pool is very close to the hatchery, which will allow a Queen in between to actually kind of block that off a little bit if it comes to blows in the main base. So he's slightly prepared for any kind of aggression, but doesn't fully know about it just yet.
He's only built 4 Zerglings rather than the 6. He's splitting one Zergling to the south. This is going to be the first warning Dark gets of this push. This Zergling needs to see it. He's going to the left. Oh, okay, he's going to spot it. Dark, he's got very little time to prepare. Zergling speed is about to kick in. Rogue is going to be running in here. He's already morphing Banelings. He wants to surround the Queen, and he gets her. She couldn't quite make it to the minerals.
Very well done. These drones tried to evacuate as well, but the Zerglings are very, very fast, very nippy, trying to get themselves a few kills there already. Starts working on the hatchery. This is the timer above Dark's head at the moment. He's got to react in the proper response as the spine crawler is being built in the main base. Rogue is looking for killing blows.
Yeah, he doesn't want to just get that hatchery. He wants to get even more done. Nice little Zergling wall off here by Dark. Look at those Zerglings on hold position between the Baneling Nest and the minerals and the hatchery. The Queen creating a wall of spine crawlers almost ready. Banelings even morphing, but the Zerglings slide right on through. I don't even know how they could move through there, but they managed to do it.
Perfect opportunity for him as well. He saw exactly when those Banelings were morphing in, so there weren't any combat units, and he knew how much of a window he had to do damage there while those Banelings were morphing. 2 Banelings at the front there will end up trying to trade off, as this hatchery is going to be forfeit for Dark.
Yeah, 4 workers did go down, so a nice little bit of extra damage for Rogue, but he is still down a bunch of workers. Doesn't have his own hatchery started at home, so even killing this hatchery, it's not lights out for Dark.
Yep.
The problem for Dark is that his army is so much smaller, so how does he re-establish that hatchery? He's going to need to creep his way down there, move that spine crawler to the low ground, and use those banelings very well. Rogue, his job is to just slow this hatchery down while he's droning up and expanding back at home.
Not too bad of a spot to be in for either player, really. It just depends on if any more damage is up to the turn. He gets himself the drone. Good zoning out there to get himself on top of that natural location. There's these 2 banelings still warding off any Zerglings that will come down against the Zerglings themselves, and banelings go blow for blow there.
Oh, good micro from both players. Rogue, he wants to get his banelings down. Once they're down, he can get on top of the queens. And drones just delaying that hatchery more and more. Dark struggling desperately to get that hatchery down. He's running low on banelings. Finally, gets the hatchery down. Rogue's hatchery already started back at home. Dark still with the worker lead, but it's tentative.
If he can get that Baneling, then these queens are going to be very exposed, and he's going to jump on the opportunity here to try and do some damage towards them. Gets himself one, transfuse goes out on the other just before it dies.
That is massive. Dark losing both queens. Rogue snipes him. If he can get the hatchery as well, that'll be pretty much be lights out here for Dark. That would be just too much damage. There's no way he'd be able to recover from that. He needs to keep this hatchery alive.
Move away with the Zerglings. The other one's managed to save it. Spinecrawler going to reposition. But at the moment, without the queens, doesn't really have too much production in comparison. Would love to get some more out and have that going now.
Rogue in control of this game so far, looking very healthy. He's catching up in those workers behind this. The hatchery is, of course, quite a little bit faster. Still only on 1 queen back at home, and this is a nice little maneuver from Dark. Going to pull Rogue away from his side of the map. Doesn't want to lose these Zerglings, though. He's going to have to babysit them, make sure they just run around in circles, keep on evading the clutches of Rogue's army.
A true knife fight to start the ZvZ, as things will slow down here for a moment. A few banelings morphing in. Rogue sees that. Rogue will shut that down. Lings sneak in.
Oh,
they could morph into banelings.
That could be very nice right now. Rogue, I think he's aware of it. Yeah, he's moving his queen and Zerglings over there. He knows those Zerglings snuck into his natural and does catch that baneling morph. Nice pick up. Of course, Dark, with that run by, did he see the lair? No, he didn't.
Wow,
so he actually doesn't know that this is going to be, you know, quite fast tech up for Rogue, and he's going to be Roach Warren in the Evo Chamber for both players, so no one keen to rush into Mutalisks off this, both wanting to play the much more solid and safe Roach tech.
Steady here now. As Rogue, with the slight army advantage. It's only in Lings, though, so you can't get too much done unless Dark leaves the door open at the front of his natural, which is unlikely considering that there was a Spinecrawler invested into, etc. A little bit more difficult to actually get something done at the front now for Rogue.
Yeah, both players going to settle down for a little bit. Rogue is probably going to be able to establish a faster third. He does have that little edge, you know, a little bit more pressure with the Zerglings.
Looking around. Nothing, really.
Yeah, didn't scout too much. I mean, Rogue does know that there's a lot of gases going down. He did spot that Roach Warren almost finished as well, so neither player worried about Mutatech right now. Both of them very aware that the other one is just stuck on 2 bases, heading up the Roach tech tree, and now a 3rd base does go down for Rogue.
All right, so I'm defending it with banelings as well, as a few lings. See here that Rogue is going to move into assault position to try and do something. Good trade-off there for Rogue. 1 Zergling for a baneling. Not too bad. He could threaten this location if he's able to do more.
Oh man, Dark's in trouble right now.
Yeah.
He can't afford to have that hatchery cancelled, but he's just got nothing here right now. 2 banelings and a couple Zerglings, and letting 1 baneling detonate just for a single ling? Not quite on top of his game with that defense from Dark, and now sensing the situation is in, Dark realizes going roach to roach against a player whose 3rd base is that far ahead is not going to work out for him. He knows he's behind, and so he's going to tech up into Mutalisks, hopefully make something happen with an Air Force.
Yeah, he can try and shut down his opponent's vision in the middle of the map, and at the same time, if the roaches do come over, eventually they'll be on a timer, but they don't die that fast. So if there's a huge swell of roaches and Rogue commits fully to that, the Mutalisks are going to be staying at home, trying to defend it for ages and ages and ages. And it could take its toll.
Hats off to Rogue for just how active he's been with his Zerglings, constantly poking around the map. He's just looking for avenues to attack, looking for those little windows, and not throwing them away at any point. A lot of players would just get a bit overly aggressive, lose those Zerglings, but he's just maintained them, kept that pressure up, and now he's got roaches out, he's got tunneling claws and burrow on the way. This is actually really sick.
Yeah, that's a lot of power he'll have behind these roaches. 9 more on the way being produced. Gas is going down at the third base as well, so he'll have a very heightened income compared to what we're seeing for Dark here. And Dark having Spire across 2 base means that he's not going to have that many mutas when this comes along, right? 6 coming out. It's not exactly a power play down the line.
No, not really. I mean, it's got a nice surprise factor here in that they will make it very frustrating. Rogue can't just kind of sit in the middle of the map with his roaches. It's going to clean up a lot of overlords as well. There's no overlord speed for Rogue, and he has a lot of overlords out there. So these mutas are going to be a nice little surprise. They're going to force a lot of spore crawlers. And I can't imagine Dark really affording much fancy tech behind this. I think it's just going to have to be use this to help protect yourself, drone up a bit more, keep massing roaches, and hopefully contest Rogue in the Roach Ravager game. But that's where that tunneling claws and burrow is going to come in.
I like that the 2 at the front were Overseers, so I mean, they're not going to get away from Mutalisks, but at least they would have had a bit of an easier time if Queens would start focusing them down and things like that. So Rogue's game plan is solid for the most part, and Dark has actually supply blocked himself here while he was trying to get that third base up and running, and going for the 4th hatchery as well as Rogue. Both players.
Oh, this is where the danger starts. These roaches burrowing in from every side. Dark has no idea about it. His mutas over here think they're giving him map control, but they actually aren't right now. These roaches sneaking into his mineral lines, and Dark, his roaches are all sitting down at his natural. They are not out front. They aren't in position on top of these roaches. And there we go. They're going to start burrowing in, start trying to snipe down what they can.
Some spotted by that Overseer. Very good reactions there for Dark, though, as those toolings have been irritating in the main base. But these will be shut down, which is good for Dark to gain some momentum here, as the Mutalisks are going to try and keep the rest of the units at home. Obviously, the Queens can't really do too much as bouncing between these bases.
Nice micro. Yeah, this is the sort of little things Dark needs to keep doing to try to get back into this game. He's going to be facing off against Roche Hydra, so there's going to be a very scary push coming out of Rogue. Both players having similarly timed +2 upgrades. There won't really be an upgrade advantage. It's just going to be the fact that the Hydralisks in the back of the Roach Ravager are going to give Rogue a big damage bonus. And Rogue just seems to have the numbers advantage. I mean, these mutas not really going to help in the fight. So there are just going to be a few more Roaches and Ravagers out on that field for Rogue as the game progresses, and +1 carapace is on the way now as well. Wondering if Rogue's just going to go for one big Roach Hydra push, or if he's going to play it a little bit slower. I'd be expecting a bit more tech if he wants to play this any later.
Dark's done very well to catch up in some sense of this game, but at the same time, as you say, Rogue is going to have quite a strong army in a few moments, as these Mutalisks still just finding little points of harassment wherever they can. The 2 roaches down to the 4th base that were burrowed, I think, have now been chased away. The Overseer came along to help that steadily.
Very nicely done there by Dark, and those mutas, as long as he maintains those, they are going to be annoying. They're going to keep finding the odd drone here or there. Oh, don't want to fly over those Hydralisks, and just as I said, as long as he keeps them alive, they'll be great. They are pretty much useless now. Single Mutalisk's not really going to be worth very much, and it's just Roach Ravager versus Roach Ravager Hydra. Spire on the way for Rogue as well, considering, of course, going into his own tech switch, knowing that Dark is behind in that tech, and I think Dark is just going to try and turtle up here.
Might be. It might be a bit annoying, though. There's 2 Banelings that are in that location. I think they've been spotted, though, so the Queen and Roach is going to come along and cancel those. Good eyes by Dark. Doesn't have to be, as there's going to be Roaches moving down towards the 4th base. Seeing what they can get done as well.
Yeah, it's Rogue's time to shine right now. He's maxed out. He's got this very nice army. He's +1 carapace. He's getting close to done. He's got the real annoyance of these tunneling claw roaches, which really can cause a lot of trouble for Dark. It looks like it's his time, and actually Dark's way out of position. He's not ready for this Kalaris.
Those roaches alone with the burrow that draw him out of location, and now actually splitting up some of his units here, and just going to send those off into the main base to try and, once again, stretch Dark thin.
I'm a little bit surprised that Rogue didn't just dive up there and take position, since Dark wasn't really ready for it. I feel like he could have taken a nice angle, but...
Do you think that there's not much of a way out there and you're kind of clumped up against Corrosive Vials?
It's definitely, you know, it's a one... You either win that fight or you get massacred, so a little bit risky. Maybe he didn't want to risk it.
All right, well, these 2 roaches doing what they can. Roaches everywhere now for Rogue, just trying to kill off drone after drone, and they'll kill off some here and there. And now he's trying to seize this location. This is a better angle for him to try and fight in, but it's a lot of Ravagers on the other side. So the Corrosive Vials are going to buy Dark some time there.
Yeah, it's all about the micro here. And I mean, Rogue's the one who's distracting Dark. Dark has to micro on so many fronts to defend these Roaches. He's trying to defend the front. It's all about the Corrosive Vial. He needs to zone out these units and needs to punish those slow Hydralisks. He's doing a great job so far. Dark is landing so many of these vials. He's spreading against Rogue's vials, and it looks like for now he has managed to push him back, but losing 16 drones in the process. His entire fourth base was ravaged.
That was the big part of that play, right? The fact that he perched in between the third and fourth base, separated some units off, and just bought enough time for drones to die.
Oh, this is so smart from Rogue. He's going into mutas off this. I was just saying, you know, the really scary thing for Rogue is because you've just traded off a lot of army for workers, and Dark just held down that Roach button. He's got a way bigger Roach army, but now with mutas out and nothing that shoots up for Dark, there's no way he can counter push.
He's going to have 20 Mutalisks very soon. He already has 17 out on the field. 3 are about to pop as well. And now, good luck Corrosive Vialing this. It's so annoying. He's going to lose so many expensive Ravagers in the process here. And Rogue is starting to run rings around Dark.
Yeah, Dark's in a lot of trouble. Every Ravager that goes down is 100 gas, which he won't be getting back. These units are so valuable to take out at this stage of the game. Dark going to try and do a desperate attack on the top. Hydras, not with a lot of buffer for them. They're going to still wear down this force, and as Roaches rally in, though, I think Rogue will have enough. And I think that's going to be all she wrote for Dark. As this attack fizzles out, yeah, he gets a couple of workers, but he's lost his fourth behind it. The mutas still reign supreme over the map. And Rogue here with a very beautiful game one.
It was a desperate assault there for Dark up to the top right-hand corner. As I say, the mutas doing very well for themselves. And Roaches after Roaches keep burrowing in onto those mineral lines. So despite him losing workers on the other side, he'll clean everything up there. And Rogue, meanwhile, will kill off plenty on the other side as well. Vipers are morphing in, as well as a Hive coming in now for Rogue. But it's all a little bit too late.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing what he really should do here. Dark is, he's trying to get out that parasitic bomb, but not going to be able to do it. They get focused down immediately, and Dark, he's being as annoying as possible with Roach counterattacks. The last ones have now been cleaned up. His last little bit of economy going down, and Rogue going to clean this game up.
And there you go, GG. Rogue finds some light here in the start of this series. And he'll be moving on to game number 2 in just a few moments' time. What a performance coming out from him in that first game pick.
Very clean, calm play, and you can see it there reflected on his face. He says, you know what? That's just how I played that game. I came out with the aggressive opening, got a little bit of an edge, and I think, you know, the big point there was how he followed it up. Just canceling the hatchery, killing 3 or 4 drones, that's not a massive victory in of itself, but it was his ability to come in, cancel the hatchery when it was rebuilding, and then kill both queens. That was really big. Took the wind out of Dark's sails, and from there, Rogue ran away with the momentum, canceled the third base again a little bit later, and it was just a series of defeats for Dark. The story, which really has been his on day 1 as well, taking a lot of damage in the early game. He still fights really well later on, but he's so far behind, it just doesn't matter.
Rogue, across almost all of his matchups at the moment, is looking in a really great place in this tournament. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, he killed it pretty much across the board. He showed he could take on Gumiho's mech play. You know, he had some very close matches against that here in Zerg vs. Zerg, looking very calm and collected. We saw the other Zerg player who's doing fantastically at this tournament, Su, who we'll be seeing in the next quarterfinal after this one. He also loved these early rushes and did very, very well with them. Rogue pulling one out in game 1 shows he is willing to do what he needs to take it out. And I mean, Dark, he's a player who mixes these in as well, so I would not be surprised if we really do see just a wild knife fight, both players mixing in early pools, going back and forth, and we could have a very aggressive series.
Things getting crowded here at China Joy for the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai. A lot of passionate Chinese fans here. It's great to see.
Yeah, we've
some young, some old.
Yeah, we've got a big, you know, you've got pretty much people from everywhere all over this this convention. We've got so many in the audience here. Thankfully, we do have a rather large area down here at China Joy.
Yeah.
And it's been a nice morning as well. It's been a little bit cooler today, a bit of thunderstorms this morning as well, but now the day's cleared up and we have some beautiful StarCraft II action to bring you.
All right, let's get into it. Game number 2. As we have spawning up to the top left-hand corner in the blue, it is Dark. Having to recollect everything from that game. And then down to the bottom right-hand corner, going for an early pull once again. It is Rogue for Jin-Air Green Wings. And, well, what can we say? It was a stunning game number 1 from him.
Very clean, precise play. Of course, it's easier to look good when you're the one attacking, you're the one all over your opponent. But he didn't make any mistakes. There was nothing there for us to really pick up on and say that's a problem. And it looks like Rogue here, he's like, you know what, I'm going to go again. This time, it's going to be a 12 pool. This is a Zergling rush, but with no speed, no Banelings. It's going to have a much quicker expansion behind it because he's only mining minerals. And his real aim here is to kill Dark's hatchery or to kill a lot of drones. Doesn't need to get as much damage. If he gets the hatchery, it's like massively awesome for him. If he just kills a few drones, it's still okay. He can totally transition out of that.
Yep. So here they come, going through the map now. Which route is he going to take? Because those overlords are all in the middle at the moment, so yeah, could be a little bit dangerous.
Probably just going to go straight across the middle. This is a shorter rush distance, so probably wants to use that to his advantage and say, let's just get there as quickly as possible. This is a less secretive rush. There's a smaller window for it to have success since these Zerglings don't have that maneuverability of Ling speed. And it looks like indeed it will be spotted, and Dark once again finds himself in the position that he is in so often in these big tournaments. He is the one going for the economic play. He wants to get to the later game, but his opponent is not wanting to push it there. He wants to come in and slow Dark down right now. Is Dark going to pull drones to defend? How is he going to respond to this?
And it's difficult. He's already got 6 Lings being produced. The drones are not moving. Queen's on the way, but by the time anything is going to pop out here, this hatchery is going to be gone.
Yeah, 100%. If he doesn't pull drones, Dark is basically saying, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll just try and retake it pretty much immediately. Instead, he's non-stop mining. He's still up 6 workers. Rogue's natural hatchery is finishing up right now behind this. Those broodlings getting a lot of damage done.
Yeah, they really did. I was kind of surprised at how much that works there. I guess he didn't anticipate how many Zerglings were going to be at the top and blocking him off while that was going on.
Wow, this is a lot of Zerglings that Rogue committed to as well. He built 14 Zerglings, so he's building another 6 Zerglings at home, as well as making Ling speed. He wants to follow this up with a big Ling all-in. Rogue just non-stop aggression, pedal to the metal right now. He is not slowing it down at all.
Yeah, off the back of the 2 hatcheries there. Of course, he doesn't exactly have massive amounts of minerals to be fueling the Queens and the Lings as they're coming out, but still, they are banking up now.
Oh no, Dark's going for a 3rd hatchery behind this. He's seen the natural expansion. He's assuming Rogue's gone gasless. And normally, 95% of the time, your opponent doesn't have Ling speed until 5 minutes or later. In this case, the Ling speed is almost done for Rogue. It's going to be done in about 30 seconds, and he has a ton of Zerglings. Dark has no idea. He needs to scout this, but he's not even trying to right now.
Surely he needs to use the small window he has with speed to try and sneak a Ling through. Or a Ling or 2 through, back to the...
He's going for it, James, but I don't know if he's going to be able to. Look how solid Rogue's positioning is.
Oh, that's very good. There's so many Lings at the top of the main ramp, which is really important here. Look how many is banked up. This is crazy numbers.
Oh, Dark's only going to spot it now. He realizes his Zerglings are in a great position to counterattack. You can see his face there, barely even reacting. He's been in this position before. It's not a good one, but he's going to do his best. His Zerglings are in the counterattack. On the counterattack, they took out a Queen. They're intercepting the reinforcements. He's using drones here to help body block, to help buy time for those Queens. But Rogue, he's on point. He's already focused firing the Queens, trying to get through that weak Queen. It's going to go down.
No energy for the transfuses there, unfortunately for him. And the drones have to go for the battle as well, as they get pulled all the way back to the mineral line. But another Queen ends up going down. Dark here, it really under threat right now, as the drones have to be pulled off the line as well to try and deal with these Zerglings as they continue ravaging this position here. And Dark really doesn't have much left at all. GG, game number 2 goes to Rogue. And oh my god, he is on the warpath. He wants to get to that semi-finals fast.
Lightning quick, doesn't give Dark a chance to respond, doesn't let him get any information, doesn't give him a glimmer of hope there. And Dark, coming out the worst for wear of these 2 openings in game 1 and 2, he's now down 0-2 against Rogue, and he's looking perplexed. He looks like he does not have the answers right now, and you've got to feel that way after such a decisive couple of games as we've seen so far.
That's right, Alberts would be proud. As Rogue brushes his hair, gets going into game number 3 in just a few moments' time. Barely breaking a sweat.
Smart, aggressive play, and this is one of the most powerful ways to play Zerg versus Zerg. If there's one thing I can always be critical of when I talk about Dark, it's something I speak about him in amazement, and also I'm critical at the same time because he looks like he thinks he's the better player.
Yeah.
Not just in his interviews, he definitely does there as well, but he plays that way. He says, if I get to the later stages, I, as the better player, have a better chance of winning than you, so I always want to push it later. And here, we see him doing that, where he's playing a little bit too predictable. He's putting himself on the back foot, and even the slightest mistake, Rogue is pouncing on. He's punishing it, he's doing big damage. I think Dark, he needs to change things up a little bit. The next map, though, it's going to be Proxima Station, a much more defensive map. So it's an interesting one. You know, Rogue could totally shift gears.
Yeah.
Play very economic here.
Well, he has a few moments to mull over his thoughts going into game number 3 as we go to a short break here at the Intel Extreme Masters. And when we're back, more Rogue versus Dark.
Well, so far, this ZvZ definitely going to Rogue. Dark having a really hard time, down 0-2.
Yeah, absolutely. I think game number 1 was actually quite impressive by Dark, though. He really made a lot of good moments, and I think he did a very good way in clawing his way back into that game. Just was not thinking about the counter spy. It's like we're past that phase of the game, right? We're just going to make roaches and ravagers. Maybe eventually we'll get a hive, and he just wasn't ready for those mutas. They absolutely destroyed him. It was the worst moment as well, as he just spent all of his money, and he was maxed out on Roach Ravager, and if then 12 mutas show up, you're like, well, every choice I make right now is going to be the wrong one, and it was just very rough to watch.
Yeah, it feels like Rogue's playing really smart, though. Like, in game number 2 as well, he doesn't just go for that aggression early on. He goes for a bit of a weirder follow-up, and Dark just wasn't expecting it. And then all of a sudden, Dark is just in so much trouble again, you know? He can't hold that attack. It's just impossible once he's made so many drones.
You know, it's very interesting seeing their styles clash as well, because it seems like Rogue has always been this guy who prepares very well for a series. These are some smart moves like that Massling follow-up. He's kind of playing a little bit unorthodox. Whereas Dark, like, this guy's so good at staying alive, but in the early game, is he just getting too far behind? Does he have to play safer?
Yeah, I mean, obviously game number 2 is just very unfortunate. There's not much you can say about it. I like the idea of blocking with the drones, but it was just a little too late. That's a few too many links. I still think that Dark can make this a competitive series as long as he's able to get there. Because I think there were times where you could see Rogue like trying to get a little fancy on the Ascension to Ire. And I think if there's one thing you should not do against Dark is trying to out-multitask this guy. Because I genuinely believe that nobody can out-multitask this man. He's so incredibly good in figuring out where he needs the right amount of units. It's just that he forgot about the mutas, and that kind of destroyed an almost perfect game from him from the situation he was in. So I still think that, you know, if he pushes it into a 6-7 minute game where he's not behind, and then obviously like Aspire is just one of these things where sometimes you get so caught up in the Roach Wars that you forget about it. But obviously then it's looking very dicey for Dark right now.
Okay, we'll see if he can bring it back. I'm hoping he can take at least a couple games here and make it competitive. But here we go into game number 3.
Proxima Station going to be our map here for Game 3. Dark going up against Rogue. Dark is 1 game away from his earliest exit in an Intel Extreme Masters. As the past 3, he's been able to make the semi-finals. Up to the top right-hand corner in the blue, it is Dark. looking for the recovery pick.
Yeah, what an upset that would be. He wants a chance to play his own game right now. This guy down here in the bottom left, he hasn't been giving him that chance. In the red, it is Rogue.
A vagabond, a miscreant, it's Rogue.
Coming out here and he's stealing Dark's Zerg vs. Zerg chances so far in this series. Rogue is going to be going for the front hatchery, unafraid. As he's been this whole series, he does not worry about taking the slightly more exposed base, and that also gives him a much easier third later in the game. Dark, on the other hand, he's just been early pulled twice. He's afraid of going out. He's going to go for the hatchery in the back. He's going to play very safe here in response to these threats.
Just wants to get towards later stages of this game. I suppose it gives him the opportunity to eventually push some Lings over the other side, but they probably won't do too much, considering the timings of everything going on and it being Proxima.
You know, it's the ultimate StarCraft thing. It's like, you know, players who really like to macro, they just want a chance to play their own game. They feel cheated when players just don't let them do it. And I think a lot of players experience this in Zerg versus Zerg, but really, you've got to play to the matchup. It's a fast-paced matchup. It's one where you can't just do the same sort of defensive play every game. Rogue, he's shown us two very different build orders in game 1 and 2. Two types of early pool, now going for what appears to be a gasless hatchery first. So I think he's just going to be walling off with some Evo chambers and a Roach Warren, going up for that very safe, very typical, let's just go into a Roach macro game. You're probably worried about the you know, all the weird shenanigans that have been going on. This one's going to be much more straightforward.
That's one of the better maps for it, right? Because you can get that nice sense of a wall that's natural. There's a spine crawler already going down. Wow, so Rogue is playing super safe here against what potentially Dark could do on the other side, but Dark has a few Lings, but that's it.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Rogue here, I guess just not seeing the front hatch. He is just going, whoa, 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 what's going on? Why did you not take that front hatchery? And in a moment, his Overlord will be spotting the creep at the back, realize, oh, this is nothing to be worried about. And I think he will be canceling that spine crawler back at home. We're going to have to keep our eye on that as it's about to finish.
At the same time, though, I mean, having the spine crawler, because you don't see a hatchery at the front, you're probably banking on the fact that your opponent isn't going gasless, right? Because if you were going gasless, you would take the one at the front and then go for that wall off, like Rogue's doing.
Yeah.
So there is the potential that down the line, Dark gets aggressive against the gasless Rogue.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think that does make perfect sense. I mean, you have this as a bit of an insurance policy. Any Ling flood on your wall off, you're going to have way more damage behind it. Yeah. You know, we've seen players with 3 or 4 queens and they still just get overwhelmed by the massive Zerglings. But you've got a spine crawler and a wall of evolution chambers, and there is no way your opponent is going to break through that.
All right, these Lings just going to be moving on back. At least the queens find themselves an Overlord, and these 2 Lings alone are going to try and shut that down, but it's probably not going to work.
Nice snipe for Rogue to start things off. Supply blocking Dark there quite a little bit. These Zerglings going to try and sneak on in. Ooh, one Zergling slipping by on red hit points. And it is going to spot that third hatchery in the back. Very nice spotting there for Dark.
I thought you said Reddit points then, and then it twigged with me red hit points. I'm like, oh, okay. It was snuck by an upvote. Well
yeah,
done.
he's a real memester, that Zergling, man. Like, he's got all the rare Pepes. Fortunately, Zerglings don't have the spray paint function just yet, only workers, so we don't get too much graffiti coming out of them, but just gonna have to see where this one goes. Rogue up a couple of workers, does not have that mobility, of course, you know, having completely skipped the Ling speed. Dark himself cancelled Ling speed, ended up going for a nice quick lair, and that also has been spotted. Both players just going into this Roach game, neither one wanting to make an aggressive move. Rogue with the economy advantage.
I know you're clearly king of the memesters pick. So how many times in pro games, or not pro games, like on the ladder, have you brought a drone with you so that you can spray? Ever? Or
only very rarely. Not nearly as much as I should do, you know?
No, yeah, exactly.
So you do feel really bad when you do that and then you beat the person because, you know, you're like, wow, I'm that guy. I think you've got to, you know, do it in good chest. Got to have a few of those cool decals spray painted down on the ground.
I'll be honest, if I was any good at StarCraft, I would be doing it every game. Just saying.
Yeah? You'd basically be Maru then. Maru and his mana mules, man. Yeah. I'm really sad that he went out yesterday because I really wanted to see a lot more of that. That guy just has no shame. He'll beat his best friend, like, you know, in a very important match, and he'll drop like 16 mana mules on them before going over to shake their hand. And it's like, Maru.
When it's your best friend, that's the best time to do it, Pig. What are you on about?
This is why pro gamers don't have that many friends, James.
All right, back into the game, back into normality.
It's just Roach versus Roach, not that much to talk about. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. Both players going for upgrades. They're both kind of droning, and the scouting's continuing. We've seen now Overseers coming in, dropping Changelings, and what they're really doing is they're both checking each other's work accounts and saying, hey, are you building as many drones as I am? Oh, you are? Oh, cool. I'm safe to keep on building more workers.
Yeah.
And now that they've saturated 3 bases fully, they've really only got one direction to go. And this map always plays out the same way. You make about 5 billion roaches and you try to hold onto your gold base. Because that gold base gives you a really important income spike.
But surely Rogue would be in a better position to actually hold his side of the map. He's just broken down the rocks with the Spine Crawler and Queen. He's got himself aggressive creep spread going, so he'll have a bit more vision than his opponent. And when he gets the gold down, he should have a better defensive setup, no?
Spot on. I mean, he's just got that bigger supply right now, right? More money, more army. A great little snipe there from Dark to delay the gold base going down. And Dark, I love this move from him, though. Reacting to the situation he's in, Dark knows he is a little behind. He's going instead for the more standard 4th base on the backside, saying, look, I can't defend that gold base. It's too exposed. Let's bring the fighting back a little bit. Use Defender's advantage.
Ooh.
And unfortunately lose an Overseer there. But yeah, if he can use Defender's advantage, Dark still has a chance of hanging on. But that supply count, Rogue is just being grossly efficient this game.
And these are all slow overlords, so he really needed Pathogen Glance to be able to get these out in time. So 3 kills for Rogue.
Interesting tip, you want to always move them either horizontally or vertically when you're trying to dodge these files rather than on an angle. That way they'll get out of the kind of target AoE a little bit quicker. So
that works.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when there's that many, it's a bit difficult.
Ooh, never mind, they were off mark.
It's just buying time here more than anything. These overlords will go down.
Get him.
And a few more are on the way. Nice dodges.
This is the overlord that could.
He could. He saw all of his friends go down, but now he's gonna hang on, man, for a little bit anyway.
Right.
Plus two's quicker for Dark right now, James. That's good. That could be big. Tunneling Claws, did that just finish? I think it just did. Burrow and Tunneling Claws are now done for Dark.
Ooh.
Okay, Dark's going to try and sneak some roaches across. He's already got 4 sneaking through the middle of the map. Do we have an Overseer? Oh, Rogue, right on time, is making an Overseer at his natural. And oh my god, House Phase 2.0.
There's not that many entrances is the problem on this map, right? So as long as there's an Overseer around the gold, around this natural base as well, he should be okay in being able to shut down this play. It's not as powerful as it would have been on, say, Ascension to Wire.
That Overseer as well, like morphing that literally as the roaches were coming in. Just perfect timing from Rogue saying, you know what? He could have Tunneling Claws about now. Let's be safe against that. And what are you going to get? 1 drone for 4 roaches? That's not great.
On Dark side, as much as he felt like he had to have something happen, do you think it's as good an investment, realistically, where in the position in the game that he was in? Because it really did not much, though.
It could have punished him, but I think now that he's almost maxed, it's okay. He needs a few more seconds for these last roaches to pop out. If Rogue fights him right now, Rogue does win. But Dark, he's going to rely on Corrosive File. He's even going to go out and snipe an Overseer. No, it does get dodged. He's trying to fight in the open. He doesn't want to defend the 4th. Dark! What are you doing, you madman? He's just going to counterattack. He's just saying, nuh-uh, I'm going to completely avoid you, bypass that, and start a base trade.
This could be really bad. Oh my god. Oh, okay, well,
Dark's
Rogue's just going to go.
around.
This is crazy. I thought maybe he would go back and then the Ravagers might be exposed with the Roaches not blocking for them, but this is just going all over the place. Dark's now working on the Roach Warren. If he kills that off, there won't be any more Roaches at the moment for Rogue.
Yeah, both players need to rebuild their Roach Warrens right now. It's going to be really important to be able to reinforce. Rogue setting up on top of the ramp. There is no way Dark is going to break through that. Sick positioning by Rogue here, handling this base trade so well. At the same time, he's already lost a base of drones back home.
The perfect choice is that Corrosive File's going to land on the middle of that ramp there as well here to try and shut this down. And all Rogue did separates a few roaches off to each hatchery. He doesn't need that much to start working on these positions. This is a great little play from Rogue at the top.
Yeah, Rogue's doing really well, though. At the same time, he's lost way more workers back at home. Dark here, showing that multitasking he's famous for, is doing so well. These roaches getting massacred. Oh, that was not the right move, Dark.
Not at all, but there's 2 Overseers keeping an eye on things. More roaches are going to be popping out. It's only Ravagers towards the bottom of this ramp now, as the roaches were probably trying to come in and swing in against the Ravagers at the top there for Rogue, but it was all for really nothing. Rogue now with a supply advantage.
Dark still has the better income right now, but he's got to break out of this position. He's got a lot of Roaches and Hydras coming in here. Great management of a terrible position by Dark. He is going to overwhelm this somehow, finding a way to break out, but it has been very costly.
Yeah, It has Dark there, managing to kill all of this off. Rogue needs to get himself an army back up and running as fast as possible. The thing is it's 75 army supply to 80, with a gold base still mining on the side for Rogue. So as much as he's down in workers slightly, the income's relatively similar.
Yeah, I mean, things were looking so good for Dark, but I feel like tunneling clawing those roaches through the army, not realizing there was an overseer, was a big misstep. If it wasn't for that, he might have had the numbers to break out without having to pull all of those drones. Those 20 drones he lost in the main, that kind of just totally eradicated the income advantage that he had. And now Rogue bringing a massive spine crawlers down to the front. There is no way his gold base is going to be broken anytime soon.
No, not at all. So now both players are going to be looking for alternate paths to put on some harassment somewhere, unless they just get themselves a huge Hydra Roach ball. But the Roaches haven't started production yet all for Dark because he lost his Roach Warrant. Now he's just getting it up and running. Cancels the Lurker Den, I should say.
Yeah, gonna go for his own tunneling claws as well as that Hydra upgrade. Rogue just adding things on, and Rogue actually re-droning quite hard, while Dark, he's only squeezed in a few more drones, focusing more on the army production right now. And you know, I can't really say economy is necessarily going to be the most important thing right now. Army definitely looks like it's going to be more important in the next minute or so. Dark leading that by about 15-20 supply, and Rogue's got to be careful. You've rebuilt a bigger economy now, but your opponent has a huge army.
Oh, yeah, he does. I feel that if this game was to go on longer, Rogue's tunneling claws would eventually be in a much better position to actually do damage because of the base spread out for Dark in comparison to having the gold on the other side for Rogue with that amount of spine crawlers.
16 spine crawlers helps as well, I guess.
Yeah, it's just
kind of nice. Those drones feel a little bit safer on that gold base, that's for sure. These roaches are going to take down this. Of course, tunneling claws has been spotted, so Dark should be preparing for this. You can see he's dropping a spine crawler in the, I believe it's the mineral line of the 4th base. And, ooh, Rogue getting a bit cheeky. Looked like he might have wanted to flank in there and get the concave on him, but chose to back off. Dark still has that army advantage. He's up with the +1 carapace upgrade. He's got a lot of Hydras in there, but it's all about the angling. Concave is going to be so important.
That's right. So looking to greet it as it comes down that ramp. That ramp, not the best friend of Dark there, as Tunneling Claw is going to try and find a little way around there for the Roaches down the line.
Dark really wants his own gold base now. Wants to establish a 5th. Rogue sensing this, he's going to just set up position down here and try to stop him from taking it. A couple of Hydras going to accidentally card the wrong way. A couple of Roaches as well.
Slightly scrappy moves there from Dark, allowing some of those to die off.
He's only just now rebuilding his lair as well. So if he wants to get more tech, he's going to need to start that now. And oh man, another 6 or 7 Roaches going to be going down here.
They will spot them thanks to the Burr Roaches.
Yeah, he's getting the pickups, man. Ooh, and he's going to slide his own counterattack in. Dark does not have as many drones. He can't afford a lot of economy losses. Look at this great angle here from Rogue. He can use those corrosive miles. He is up against the wall a little bit. Oh, some juicy biles landing on both sides, Caleros.
Hatcheries and building working against Dark here in terms of positioning for a good concave. Roaches are in the mineral line as well, as this fight is going to go down. There's not much attack for these Hydras and Ravages, so Dark will win this fight out, but he's losing a lot of economy behind it. That's going to allow Rogue to just win out the situation as long as he can recoup his losses, and the spine crawlers hold for days.
How do you counterattack against that?
Yeah.
Dark's economy is down in the dumps. His last bases here, the main, the natural, are going to be going down. There's still Roaches on the 3rd. The 4th is the only base mining healthily for Dark right now. I think Rogue might have checkmated him. Just look at the way he was sharking around with his army. He manages to sneak the Roach counterattack in. And even though the army-to-army trade wasn't that great, look at this. He's remaxed on mass Roach, and he's going to be able to overwhelm with sheer numbers.
Yeah, just probably bulldoze this down. As long as he doesn't allow the corrosive biles to land, Roaches are still doing damage here. Here come the corrosive biles. That's going to have to hit if Dark wants any opportunity here to try and win out this fight. Spinecrawler's going to walk into the fray as well, eventually start burrowing in, but the Roaches are going to be enough here to get on towards those Ravagers and bring them down. GG, Rogue takes it 3-0. And what a performance from him in this ZvZ. Every single maneuver, he was outplaying Dark.
So decisive, always one step ahead of his opponent, and taking a few risks here and there, never being afraid, always seeming to know what he could get away with and how to punish his opponent. Just sick play, and something I mean, I knew he was on form, but I did not expect this result at all. I thought Dark would at least take one game.
The big question is, who is going to stop Rogue in this tournament? At the moment, he's been in such great shape, as you're mentioning, from the group stage, and now looking to take out the second place finisher at BlizzCon in Dark in such convincing fashion.
So cool to see another Zerg joining the ranks of these absolute tip-top guys like Bial, like Su, like Dark. And of course, what way to do it but by toppling one of the absolute top most respected Zergs there is in a very decisive 3-0 match. Rogue there, he's looking on fire, man.
That does it. One more quarterfinal here to determine who our top 4 will be. For now, though, we're going to go to a short break. When we're back, more from the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai.
Bring you more a post-game interview. I am Mal. I'm standing alongside Rogue. 자, 이병렬 선수. 일단 4강이라니요. 깜짝 놀랬죠. 그리고 첫 번째 경기에서 사실 뮤탈리스크로 체제 전환을 했을 때 깜짝 놀래. 역시 진에어는 진에어라는 건지. 그게 가장 궁금합니다. Rogue, first of all, congratulations advancing to semi-finals. You didn't seem very confident, but you were able to pull off a very prominent 3-0 victory over Dark. I want to ask one question about the game, which was in the first game, it was Roach, very evened out, but what broke that tie-in game apart was the Mutalisk transition. Now, is that because, and is that a contribution to Jin Air Green Wings, Fly Better Fly, Jin Air?
네. 첫 경기에서 제가 워낙 유리했던 경기고 또 제가 하면서도 명우가 긴장을 많이 한 것 같은 게 느껴지더라고요. 컨디션이 안 좋나 그래가지고 좀 더 마음을 편하게 게임을 했었던 것 같고 뮤탈리스크는 상대가 뮤탈리스크를 다 잃는 걸 본 순간 바로 영무타를 띄우면은 무조건 좋은 상황이 나올 수밖에 없겠다라고 생각해서 했어요.
In the first game, I really actually felt like I was way ahead in the game against Dark, and Dark didn't really seem like he was on point. So what was in my mind was if I drop all his mutas and go for counter mutas, that game there was no way I could have lost. And I did that, and it went as smooth as I imagined. 자, 그럼 박영우 선수가 일단 저그 대 저그전이 성적이 매우 안 좋은 걸로 정평이 좀 나 있잖아요. 그래서 그러신 건지 모든 매 게임을 내가 먼저 찌르겠다, 약간 이런 컨셉을 잡으신 것 같거든요. Dark's ZvT on paper is not the best, and all the players know that his ZvZ is not the best, and I think is that what driven your concept into first attack, first ignition of the fights?
일단 제가 연습 때 거의 운영밖에 안 하는 스타일이라서 그거를 좀 맞춤을 할까봐 제가 올인을 몇 판 쓴 거고 그래서 그런지 방송에서 올인이 좀 더 잘 통하는 것 같아요.
When I practice, all I do is macro game. I'm concentrating on the basics and just getting the basics done right. But when I'm on TV, I like to do all-ins. I like to, change things up, make the games interesting, and I think that's what throws a lot of the other players. 자, 그럼 마지막으로 섹시보이라면서 인터뷰 볼 때 되게 긴장한 게 많이 보이거든요. 도대체 왠지 너무 궁금합니다. I think it was a couple of years ago in Pro League interview where I don't know where, but Rogue just said the word sexy boy. And I read that as a confident in interviews, but actually when I stand beside him, he's like one of the most nervous interviewee I've ever met.
일단 대회가 다 끝나지 않아서 항상 긴장하고 있는 상태고 지금 머릿속에 거의 게임 생각밖에 안 하고 있어서 그런 것 같아요.
You know, the tournament's not over yet, and I like to be in my little bubble, concentrating on the games, focusing on the tournaments, and I think that's just rubbing off on me. Thank you very much, 이병렬 선수. 감사합니다. Back to you, experts.
What a series out of Rogue. What a stone-faced killer. 3-0 against the guy that we basically considered to be the best Zerg in the world for the last year or so.
Yeah, I mean, he just played so well, though. Every single move he made was just on point, and he was always in the right position. You know, he was always one step ahead, it felt like. He was moving up that ramp into the main base, and then he was always pulling his roaches to the side to deal with the reinforcements that were about to pop. He got rid of Doc's spawning pool and roach swarm, which meant Doc couldn't rebuild for ages in Game 3. It was a really rough one for Doc there.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, we already went over the first two games quite a few times, and just gotta say, rough series for Dark, and Rogue is looking absolutely fantastic. Even that final game where at one point you feel like, well, maybe Dark can claw his way back into it, but Rogue just made all the right decisions. He had the safety spines, and he's like, all right, you know, I don't need them for the base turret anymore. I'm moving towards the gold. And then both players were doing the tango, you know, like who's gonna make the first misstep? And then it was actually Dark, and just a couple of minor things where the roaches that were supposed to flank or counterattack of Dark were above ground, the ones of Rogue were below ground. Rogue knows where those roaches are, and there's no overseer to be side, so obviously Dark doesn't know. And these few things just allowed the Rogue to pick up a couple of units and then eventually be confident enough to just swing in and go for, well, the juggler, as Tasteless like to say. He just made better decisions. There's no other way to put it. I had high hopes of Dark, but Rogue was a Zerg too far today. He was just on point. He was better.
Well, what does this mean to you guys as Rogue's chances moving forward? Here he is in the top 4. We already have TY versus Hero on the other side. And here Rogue awaits either Sue or Bjorn. Like, is this a Rogue tournament?
I think it could be. I think he's definitely got really good chances of the finals. I think if he meets TY in the finals, it could be very difficult. But against Sue, against Bjorn, I think he has very good chances. We saw him in GSL against Sue. We know he should have won that series. Against Bjorn, I feel as though he's got a pretty good chance as well with how he's been playing against players such as Gumiho lately as well. So I reckon Rogue has a good chance to the finals, but can he break TY or Hero? That might be a different question.
He's playing absolutely fantastic so far, but what often happens with players like these that are so incredibly good, they're on a roll, and then suddenly when they go down 0-1 in the semifinals, you can suddenly see a different player. So that's going to be the big question. But if Rogue keeps playing the way that he played so far in the group stage and in this quarterfinals, I don't see why not. There's a very realistic chance that he beats Sue or Bjorn. I mean, I have no idea who's going to win that series, so let's not even go too far, but absolutely possible, but not a given.
Okay, so let's go too far, because our next match is Sue versus Bjorn. I mean, that's quite a matchup. The guy that just keeps getting second place but doesn't lose until the finals, going up against Bjorn, who needs these WCS points so badly.
I mean, how do you even call it, right? Bjorn didn't look great yesterday until he played against Maru, then he looked fantastic. And Sue is always looking fantastic. And as you say, he doesn't lose before the finals, so this may be the end of Bjorn right here.
It's going to be awesome. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the show, put my feet on that table over there. Maybe, I want to say grab a cookie, but then Todd gets mad at me again. But it's going to be an awesome series, and I'm sure we're going to see quite a few Reapers. I just hope it won't only be Reaper, but obviously you can't really imagine there's like 5 good Reaper maps in a row, but let it go to distance and let's enjoy the show. I think that one is impossible to call. They haven't played, I think, that much against each other lately either, so let's see. Very big series for Bjorn, for the reigning global finals defending champion, and obviously we want to see him make it there. Sue, he's pretty much locked in, so maybe for that storyline we need a Bjorn victory.
Okay, that's fair, but then Maru's getting pushed down, so we got to remember that one right there. They're good friends and all, but if Bjorn is going to use Reapers, now is the time. Blizzard just announced that grenade is going to go down to just 5 damage. So Bjorn, the king of Reapers, we'll see if he keeps using them beyond that. But for now, we're going to jump to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, the last series of the day.